Out in the open ocean, far beyond the sight of coastal cities and commercial shipping lanes, a dark shape moves just inches above the surface of the water, so low and so silent that from a distance it looks like nothing more than a ripple in the waves. There are no bright navigation lights, no towering bridge, no visible crew scanning the horizon. Instead, there is a narrow hull, riding barely above sea level, its profile so small that even advanced radar systems can struggle to distinguish it from the surrounding sea clutter. Inside that cramped shell, packed tightly with fuel tanks, engines, and tightly wrapped cargo, lies one of the most striking examples of modern criminal innovation. The Narco Submarine, a semi-submersible vessel engineered specifically to transport massive quantities of cocaine across oceans while avoiding detection. These vessels represent far more than improvised boats built by desperate smugglers. They are the product of calculated design, organized logistics, and technical knowledge that mirrors legitimate maritime engineering. Over the past few decades, drug trafficking organizations have evolved from using simple fishing boats and speedboats to commissioning custom-built craft capable of crossing thousands of miles of open water. The result is a shadow fleet operating in international waters, designed to bypass land borders, patrol checkpoints, and traditional inspection methods. What makes narco submarines especially compelling is not just their purpose, but their construction. Hidden deep within remote jungle regions of Latin America, makeshift shipyards emerge beneath thick canopies of trees, shielded from aerial surveillance and distant from prying eyes. In these concealed workshops, teams of builders assemble vessels using fiberglass, wood, steel reinforcements, and marine-grade engines sourced through complex supply chains. The low-profile hull is the defining feature. Unlike conventional submarines, most narco submarines are technically semi-submersibles, meaning they do not dive deep underwater for extended periods. Instead, they ride with the majority of their structure submerged, leaving only a small cockpit and exhaust pipe visible above the surface. This design drastically reduces their radar signature and visual detectability. Painted in muted blues or grays to blend with the ocean, they are crafted to disappear into the horizon. Fuel capacity is another critical element of their design. These vessels are equipped with extended fuel tanks that allow them to travel for days or even weeks without refueling, enabling direct routes from production zones in countries such as Colombia or Ecuador to destinations in Central America, Mexico, or even across the Atlantic toward Europe. To maximize range, engineers carefully calculate weight distribution, balancing the heavy cargo of narcotics with fuel loads and structural limitations. Navigation systems inside these boats reveal an unexpected level of sophistication. While early models relied heavily on compasses and basic charts, modern narco submarines often incorporate GPS devices, satellite phones, and encrypted communication tools. Crews receive precise coordinates, plotted in advance to avoid heavily patrolled areas and shipping lanes monitored by authorities. These routes are not random. They are selected through intelligence gathering, observation of patrol patterns, and sometimes insider information. The vessels themselves are typically operated by small crews, often just 3 or 4 individuals, who endure suffocating heat, limited ventilation, and extreme isolation during long journeys. Living conditions inside a narco submarine are harsh. Space is minimal, movement is restricted, and the air can become thick with diesel fumes. The crew often sleeps in shifts, surrounded by tightly sealed bales of cocaine stacked along the narrow hull. There is little room for error, and mechanical failure in the middle of open water can mean abandonment or capture. Yet despite these risks, the financial incentives are enormous. A single successful voyage can transport several tons of cocaine, worth hundreds of millions of dollars once it reaches international markets. This high reward justifies the investment in custom construction and technical expertise. The engineering challenges faced by builders are substantial. A semi-submersible must maintain buoyancy while carrying extreme weight, remain stable in rough seas, and operate quietly enough to avoid acoustic detection. Builders often reinforce the hull with internal ribs and waterproof sealing to prevent leaks. Engines are carefully selected not only for power but also for reliability and fuel efficiency. Exhaust systems are sometimes modified to cool emissions before they reach the surface, reducing infrared detection from aerial surveillance. Some vessels even include scuttling mechanisms, allowing crews to sink the craft quickly if interception appears imminent, destroying evidence and complicating recovery efforts. Construction typically begins with a wooden or metal frame laid out on crude supports in the jungle. Fiberglass panels are layered carefully over the frame, treated with resin, and sanded to create a smooth exterior. The process can take months, with builders working quietly to avoid drawing attention. Supplies are transported through rivers or dirt paths, often disguised as materials for legitimate construction. Once complete, the vessel is moved to a nearby river system and gradually guided toward open water. The logistical coordination required to accomplish this without detection underscores the organizational capacity behind these operations. Narco submarines are not spontaneous creations. They are the product of planning, financing, and disciplined execution. The decision to invest in such vessels reflects a broader shift in trafficking strategy. As land borders became more heavily monitored and aerial smuggling faced increased scrutiny, maritime routes offered a vast and less predictable environment. The ocean provides cover through sheer scale. Patrol forces cannot monitor every square mile of international waters, and traffickers exploit this limitation. By traveling low and slow, avoiding main shipping corridors, and timing departures carefully, narco submarines reduce their exposure to surveillance assets. Technological evolution has accelerated this trend. GPS navigation allows precise, long-distance travel without reliance on visible landmarks. Satellite communication enables coordination with support vessels or land-based contacts. Encrypted messaging applications protect operational details from interception. Even weather forecasting tools play a role, as crews choose departure windows that maximize cloud cover or storm activity to obscure aerial detection. In response, law enforcement agencies have invested heavily in countermeasures, including maritime patrol aircraft equipped with advanced radar, infrared cameras capable of detecting heat signatures, and unmanned aerial systems designed for extended surveillance. International cooperation has also expanded, with naval forces sharing intelligence and coordinating interdiction efforts. Despite these measures, the adaptability of trafficking organizations remains evident. Each interception provides lessons that inform future designs, leading to improvements in stealth, endurance, and operational security. Some vessels have evolved toward fully submersible prototypes, capable of diving briefly to evade immediate threats. Others incorporate improved ballast systems for better stability. The constant cycle of adaptation highlights a broader truth about organized crime. It evolves in response to pressure. Narco submarines illustrate this dynamic in dramatic fashion. They combine mechanical ingenuity with strategic calculation, transforming remote jungle workshops into hubs of maritime innovation. At sea, their presence is nearly invisible, yet their impact on global trafficking networks is profound. By bypassing traditional choke points and distributing risk across vast ocean routes, these vessels have reshaped the logistics of cocaine smuggling. Understanding their design, construction, and operation offers insight not only into the mechanics of maritime trafficking, but also into the ongoing contest between criminal networks and the authorities tasked with stopping them. As these vessels slip from hidden river mouths into the open sea, they enter a vast maritime network that connects production zones in Latin America to consumer markets thousands of miles away, forming corridors that have quietly reshaped the geography of global drug trafficking. The Pacific Ocean has long served as one of the primary highways for narco submarines departing from Colombia's southwestern coastline or Ecuador's remote estuaries, where dense mangroves and winding waterways provide natural concealment. From there, routes often extend northward along the Pacific coast of Central America, skirting territorial waters while remaining just far enough offshore to complicate jurisdictional enforcement. Some voyages terminate in remote areas of Guatemala or southern Mexico, where offloading operations transfer cargo to land-based networks that continue the journey toward the United States. Others venture farther, aiming for rendezvous points with fishing vessels or cargo ships that blend seamlessly into legitimate maritime traffic. The Atlantic corridor presents a different set of challenges and opportunities, particularly for shipments bound for Europe. In these cases, narco submarines may depart from northern South America and travel eastward across thousands of miles of open water, exploiting the immensity of the ocean to reduce the probability of interception. This transatlantic route requires greater endurance and meticulous planning as fuel reserves, navigation precision, and crew stamina become critical factors in survival. The logistical coordination behind such journeys extends far beyond the crew inside the vessel. Onshore planners calculate distances, weather patterns, refueling contingencies, and contingency extraction plans. Spotters monitor law enforcement patrol schedules, while financiers track costs, expected profits, and risk exposure. Each voyage represents a calculated gamble in a high-stakes enterprise that treats maritime smuggling as both an engineering problem and a strategic operation. Weather plays a decisive role in route selection. Storm systems, heavy cloud cover, and rough seas can provide natural camouflage against aerial surveillance, yet they also increase mechanical strain and navigational hazards. Crews must balance the protective advantages of poor visibility with the danger of capsizing or structural failure. Satellite-based forecasting tools allow planners to select departure windows that optimize stealth while minimizing catastrophic risk. Ocean currents also influence trajectory, as experienced navigators leverage them to conserve fuel and maintain speed. These environmental factors transform the ocean into both ally and adversary, demanding technical awareness and real-time adjustment. Communication protocols during voyages are deliberately sparse to avoid electronic detection. While modern narco submarines may carry satellite phones or encrypted devices, transmissions are often brief and scheduled, reducing the likelihood of triangulation. Pre-programmed GPS routes guide the vessel through waypoints chosen for minimal patrol density. In some cases, traffickers rely on layered logistics, with support boats positioned along the route to deliver supplies or conduct mid-sea transfers. This distributed model reduces the risk of a single catastrophic loss, spreading cargo across multiple legs and vessels. The maritime routes themselves have evolved in response to enforcement pressure. When naval patrols intensify in one region, traffickers shift departure points or alter trajectories, demonstrating a fluid understanding of enforcement geography. Intelligence leaks, corruption, and reconnaissance further shape decision-making, creating an information-driven environment in which adaptability becomes a core asset. The economic logic underpinning these routes is straightforward yet formidable. Cocaine produced in Andean regions carries a certain value at its origin, but its price multiplies dramatically as it approaches North American or European markets. The margin between production cost and retail value justifies investments in custom vessels, skilled labor, and risk mitigation strategies. A single narco submarine capable of carrying several metric tons can represent hundreds of millions of dollars in potential street-level revenue, even accounting for occasional losses due to interception or mechanical failure. The aggregate profitability sustains continuous innovation. This financial engine fuels experimentation with hull materials, propulsion systems, and stealth modifications. It also supports recruitment of individuals with maritime expertise, including fishermen, mechanics, and engineers who can translate legitimate skills into clandestine applications. The crews who undertake these journeys often operate under intense psychological and physical pressure. Confined within narrow hulls for extended periods, they face constant noise from engines, limited sanitation, and minimal fresh air. Food and water supplies are rationed carefully, and fatigue can impair judgment during critical navigational decisions. Despite these hardships, compensation for successful voyages can far exceed local wages, creating incentives that draw participants into the operation. Risk is ever present. Detection may result in arrest, prosecution, or abandonment at sea. Some crews are instructed to scuttle their vessels upon imminent interception, opening valves that flood the hull and send it sinking before authorities can secure evidence. This tactic complicates legal proceedings and underscores the disposable nature of the craft relative to the value of its cargo. As maritime trafficking expanded, law enforcement agencies responded with increasingly sophisticated countermeasures. Maritime patrol aircraft equipped with surface search radar sweep vast areas of ocean, scanning for anomalies that break the natural pattern of waves. Infrared sensors detect heat signatures from engines or exhaust systems. Naval vessels coordinate with coast guards from multiple countries, sharing intelligence through joint task forces. Unmanned aerial vehicles extend surveillance duration, hovering over suspected transit zones for hours at a time. Even commercial satellite imagery has become a tool for identifying suspicious movements in remote waters. Yet the ocean scale continues to favor concealment. For every interdicted vessel, others may pass undetected, reinforcing the perception among traffickers that maritime routes remain viable. Technological competition between smugglers and authorities resembles an ongoing arms race. Improvements in radar sensitivity lead to refinements in hull shape and exhaust cooling. Enhanced signal interception prompts stricter communication discipline and stronger encryption. Data analytics used by enforcement agencies to predict trafficking patterns are countered by traffickers' own monitoring of patrol frequency and seizure statistics. The result is a dynamic equilibrium in which neither side achieves permanent dominance. The strategic shift toward maritime smuggling has also influenced regional security policies. Coastal nations invest in patrol fleets, maritime domain awareness systems, and international cooperation agreements. Training programs emphasize identification of low-profile vessels and rapid response protocols. At the same time, traffickers diversify routes, sometimes combining maritime legs with airdrops or land convoys to complicate interdiction efforts. The integration of these modes reflects a broader logistical sophistication, treating transportation as a modular system adaptable to shifting enforcement landscapes. Narco submarines, therefore, function not in isolation, but as components within a global supply chain that mirrors legitimate commerce in its complexity. They depart from production hubs, traverse international waters, connect with distribution nodes, and deliver cargo into secondary networks that handle retail dissemination. Each stage involves risk management, cost assessment, and contingency planning. This systemic perspective reveals why maritime corridors have become so central to contemporary trafficking. They provide flexibility, scalability, and partial insulation from border-centric enforcement strategies. Moreover, the symbolism of a submarine-like craft crossing oceans undetected underscores the audacity and ambition embedded within these operations. The vessels are not merely transportation tools, they are manifestations of a strategic doctrine that prioritizes innovation as a response to constraint. As authorities close one avenue, traffickers open another, leveraging technology, geography, and economics to sustain their enterprise. In this evolving landscape, maritime routes remain a critical battleground, where engineering ingenuity meets surveillance capability and where the open sea becomes the stage for a high-stakes contest between concealment and detection. By bypassing traditional choke points and distributing risk across vast ocean routes, these vessels have reshaped the logistics of cocaine smuggling. Understanding their design, construction, and operation offers insight not only into the mechanics of maritime trafficking, but also into the ongoing contest between criminal networks and the authorities tasked with stopping them. The emergence of narco submarines ultimately reveals a broader transformation in the architecture of organized crime, where technology, logistics, and strategic planning converge to create operations that resemble shadow corporations operating beyond legal boundaries, yet mirroring legitimate global trade in structure and efficiency. What began decades ago as improvised attempts to move contraband along coastlines has matured into a highly coordinated maritime enterprise shaped by data, engineering, and adaptive learning. Every successful voyage reinforces confidence in the model, while every seizure becomes a case study analyzed for weaknesses and corrective adjustments. This iterative process drives continuous refinement, ensuring that the next generation of vessels is quieter, more stable, and more difficult to detect. Advances in materials science allow for lighter, yet stronger hull construction, reducing drag while maintaining structural integrity under heavy loads. Improvements in compact diesel engines enhance fuel efficiency and range, permitting longer voyages with fewer refueling stops. Even the internal configuration of cargo compartments reflects optimization, with tightly packed, waterproofed bundles arranged to maintain balance and prevent shifting during turbulent seas. Navigation has become increasingly precise as satellite positioning systems offer real-time accuracy within meters, enabling crews to follow carefully plotted courses that weave through surveillance gaps. Digital mapping software allows planners to overlay patrol data, shipping density, and historical interdiction zones, transforming route selection into a data-driven exercise. Encrypted communication platforms, often adapted from commercially available technologies, protect operational details from interception, while coded language and compartmentalization reduce the risk of information leaks. Financial coordination relies on complex laundering mechanisms that convert maritime deliveries into distributed profits across continents, further embedding these operations within global economic flows. Yet technological sophistication does not eliminate vulnerability. Law enforcement agencies have expanded maritime domain awareness through integrated sensor networks that combine radar, sonar, satellite imagery, and aerial reconnaissance into unified command systems. Machine learning algorithms analyze patterns of vessel movement, flagging anomalies that deviate from expected commercial traffic behavior. Cooperative agreements between nations facilitate rapid information sharing, enabling coordinated interdiction efforts that extend beyond single jurisdictions. Specialized training prepares boarding teams to approach semi-submersibles safely, while forensic analysts study recovered vessels to extract design insights and anticipate future modifications. This cycle of innovation and countermeasure underscores the relentless nature of the contest. Each side learns from the other, pushing technological boundaries in pursuit of advantage. The environmental dimension of narco submarines also warrants attention. Construction in remote jungle regions often involves clearing vegetation, diverting waterways, and transporting industrial materials into fragile ecosystems. When vessels are scuttled at sea, fiberglass hulls and mechanical components sink to the ocean floor, contributing to marine pollution. Fuel leaks during abandonment can contaminate surrounding waters, affecting fisheries and coastal communities. Thus, the impact of these operations extends beyond law enforcement challenges, touching ecological systems and local livelihoods. Communities near clandestine shipyards may experience economic distortions as illicit funding introduces temporary employment opportunities intertwined with risk and coercion. The secrecy required to maintain such facilities fosters environments of intimidation and silence, complicating efforts to address broader social issues tied to trafficking networks. At the geopolitical level, narco submarines highlight disparities in maritime surveillance capacity between nations. Wealthier countries deploy advanced patrol aircraft and satellite systems, while developing coastal states may lack resources to monitor expansive waters effectively. This imbalance creates enforcement gaps that traffickers exploit, selecting departure points and transit corridors based on perceived vulnerability. International collaboration attempts to mitigate these disparities through joint operations and capacity-building programs, yet the sheer scale of ocean territory remains a formidable obstacle. As long as vast stretches of international waters cannot be continuously monitored, opportunities for clandestine transit persist. The psychological dimension of operating a narco submarine further illustrates the human element within this technological narrative. Crews undertake voyages knowing that isolation, mechanical failure, or interception could result in severe consequences. The confined interior amplifies stress, as constant engine vibration and limited airflow create an oppressive atmosphere. Decision-making under such conditions requires discipline and training, reinforcing the notion that these operations rely not only on engineering but also on human endurance and coordination. Recruitment often targets individuals with maritime familiarity, drawing upon fishing communities where navigation skills and sea experience are common. This blending of legitimate skill sets with illicit objectives blurs the boundary between conventional maritime culture and clandestine enterprise. Meanwhile, authorities must balance interdiction efforts with humanitarian considerations when intercepting semi-submersibles in rough seas, ensuring crew safety while securing evidence. Technological advancements on the enforcement side continue to evolve. Long-endurance drones equipped with multispectral sensors patrol suspected transit zones for extended durations, capturing subtle visual or thermal anomalies. Acoustic monitoring systems detect unusual engine signatures, while satellite constellations provide near-continuous imagery of key maritime corridors. Data fusion centers aggregate inputs from diverse platforms, constructing comprehensive situational awareness that narrows the concealment advantage previously enjoyed by traffickers. Despite these improvements, the adaptive capacity of organized crime remains significant. When detection methods improve in one region, traffickers may experiment with alternative departure sites, diversify cargo loads, or integrate new stealth features. The possibility of fully submersible vessels capable of deeper, longer dives illustrates the trajectory of innovation driven by enforcement pressure. Such developments would require greater technical expertise and investment, yet the financial incentives embedded within global cocaine markets continue to motivate experimentation. The broader lesson emerging from the phenomenon of narco submarines is that organized crime functions as a responsive system, adjusting tactics in proportion to obstacles encountered. Efforts to disrupt maritime trafficking must therefore extend beyond vessel interdiction to address underlying economic drivers, supply chain vulnerabilities, and transnational coordination. Strengthening port inspections, enhancing financial transparency, and supporting alternative livelihoods in production regions all contribute to reducing the demand that fuels maritime smuggling. Public awareness also plays a role, illuminating the complexity behind headlines that might otherwise portray narco submarines as mere curiosities. They are, in reality, manifestations of a sophisticated logistical network capable of spanning oceans and integrating diverse technologies into cohesive operations. The image of a low-profile craft cutting silently across open water encapsulates both the ingenuity and the peril inherent in this global struggle. It symbolizes a persistent effort to exploit geographic vastness and technological gaps, while authorities strive to illuminate and close those same gaps. As surveillance tools grow more advanced and cooperative frameworks expand, the maritime environment becomes increasingly contested space. Yet the dynamic nature of innovation ensures that new adaptations will continue to emerge. Narco submarines stand as a testament to how far criminal enterprises will go to preserve access to lucrative markets, investing in engineering, navigation, and secrecy to sustain their reach. Understanding their design, roots, and technological evolution provides insight into the broader mechanisms of transnational trafficking and the ongoing efforts to counter it. The ocean may appear boundless and indifferent, but beneath its surface unfolds a continuous contest shaped by strategy, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of advantage. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notification so you can see our new videos early.